This is probably one of the most important videos I've ever made. As a gifted person, as a believer, as whatever you're skilled in and whatever you do, you are still going to need to build boundaries around your life. Now, sometimes you may think you're building a boundary because you're building a fence. You know how you live in a house and you build a fence for protection because you don't know what's out there and what can be coming in. Right? Also, can I suggest to you also that boundaries sometimes, fences, walls, are also built so that whatever is inside will be controlled and not be spilled out in excess, therefore protecting people from you also. I know sometimes when you think about boundaries, when you think about fences, when you think about walls, it's to protect what's inside. However, sometimes it's to protect what's outside also. For example, why do you put your money in a bank, right? Why do you put your money in a bank? To protect your money. And also to protect someone who may not even have the urge to steal, but because they see your money just sitting around, they want to pick it up because that thing that they saw has planted a little desire in them that they didn't even know was there, right? So are your gifts. So are your resources. When God entrusts you with resources, you have to build boundaries around the resources. Build boundaries around what God has placed in your hands. Because just because God has given you does not mean you're supposed to exorbitantly and just lavish it, right? I was watching a reel on YouTube once, and Apostle Femi Lazarus, man, I love that guy. He said something remarkable. He said, anyone who thinks they're El Shaddai shall die. And it's very true, because just because you are blessed with things, resources, gifts, money, whatever it is, does not mean you go lavish it out and do whatever you think you're going to do, because you shall die. You have to understand that people don't have a limit to how much they request of you, of your time, of your resources. There's no limit to how much people want as a pastor. There's no limit to how much people want to spend time with you. There's no limit to how much people want to ask you questions. There's no limit to how much people will DM you. And it's not their fault, because legitimately they have a need. If you're blessed with finances, there's no limit to how much people will ask for your hand in support, in borrowing, in lending. Please give me so and so amount of money. There's no limit. They will literally ask until you're dry. So think with me for a second. So if you have no boundaries around you, and people have no limit to how much they walk in, who's really being protected? And what is this boundary really doing? It's to protect how much flows out of you. And you won't believe how many people need to hear this, that just because you have it does not mean you're supposed to give it. I repeat myself. Just because you have it does not mean you're supposed to give it. Take example, Jesus Christ. He had the ability to speak a word, and everybody in this world would have been healed instantly. All the dead people would rise up. He could have just said, everybody be healed, and everybody would stand up. All the blind Bartimaeus would see. The lame man will walk. It would just happen, right? But he did not. Some people had to literally cry for them to get their healing. Sometimes he was walking past some of them and didn't do anything. Blind Bartimaeus had to cry how many times? 3 times. Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus was going. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. He was still going. Then he cried, have mercy on me, before Jesus turned and said, bring him to me. Jesus walked past, with all the power in the world that he had, walked past some people without healing them. So you, El Shaddai, you think you're the healer of everything? You're the solver of all your family's problems? You shall die. And you must be very careful so your good works don't even become evil, right? Because the truth is, sometimes, and I felt this, I know this too in my own life, sometimes even the good you do is just so that you can be perceived in a certain life. The good you do is just so you're not spoken in a certain way. And the truth is, no matter how good you do, you'll be spoken of ill or good. Because what you're doing is, you're not doing good so as to be spoken good of. You're doing good because God says you should do good. That's all. But sometimes the good we do, we put ourselves in the center of it. The good now becomes about us, right? If I don't pay that family member's school fees, I will be spoken of in the family group chat this certain way. Or whenever they come for Christmas, so-and-so is going to be said of me, or so-and-so is going to be And people look at me this way, and people, no, you don't owe anybody anything. You build those boundaries and let God define who has the access, how much access they have, and watch how everything will turn around. It's different when the help comes from God. When you know that God has put it inside of me to help this person. And God has put it in, not just by whim, or I'm just doing it because I have it. I'm just laying hands on everybody because I can lay hands on everybody. I'm just preaching all the time because I have the gift of preaching. No. Build boundaries around your resources to prevent abuse, to prevent abnormal use of what God has given and placed in your care. Just because you have it does not mean you're supposed to lavish it. And you can say, oh, but the Lord said we should be good and we should give. No, the Lord has to define your giving. This is not a call to selfishness and stinginess. You have to really understand what I'm saying and discern it. It means that sometimes you only have $100 and sometimes people will ask of $150. What are you going to do? Live in deficit? No. Go to God. If there's 150 people asking you, ask God, how many of these 150 am I supposed to attend to? And the Lord might well say 10, and he might well say 5, and he might well say 50. That's all I'm prescribing to you today. That's the wall. That's the boundary. In as much as you're being protected, you are also protecting people from yourself. Because you don't want to finance people's laziness and poverty anyways. You're not God the provider. You're not people's Jireh. It is Jesus who is their Jireh. You know, and in sometimes when we do all these things and we play and act as God in the lives of people, inadvertently, sometimes what you're doing is you are financing people's complacency. You are financing their mediocrity and their laziness. It could well be that God said, no, don't lend that money. It could well be that God said, no, don't give that person. And that could be the trigger to the person getting up on their feet and making a world for themselves. Now, this is not easy, man. Like, whew, I already feel the comments. I'm going to say it anyway, because I know I'm also setting someone free. Yes, you can't be bound by the opinions of people. And sometimes saying no is what will set someone free. Saying no sometimes is what will get someone off their laziness and go and make something. And they'll be so glad you said no, because that's what triggered their move. Build walls and then open windows.